It was taken apart piece by piece with a crowbar.
There's a story here that you could write a book.
Every skunk, possum, coon in the, up and down the river knew that this was a good place to eat. So they were in here at night.
In central Kansas, in a little Swedish community called Lindsborg, on the banks of the Smoky River, is a turn-of-the-century flour mill called the Smoky Valley Roller Mill. It was saved from decay and possible destruction with love, care, and dedication.
I read a person from Salina the other day. He says, I have to admire you down here in Lindsborg. You don't tear everything down.
This mill here is the granddaddy of the modern mill, and I'm talking the gradual reduction process, where you go ahead and use steel roller mills to reduce the grain by a braking system and a middling system, then to go ahead and reduce it into flour.
During this program, we're going to take a tour of the only pioneer roller mill in the United States that is nearly restored to turn-of-the-century standards.
I don't know of any other mill in the United States similar to this. There are a lot of grist mills, you know, grist stones. They did not have steel rollers like this.
Pillsbury in Minneapolis is going to restore the old mill, I think they call it the old Pillsbury A, the way it was 100 years ago. At least I read something in the milling magazine about it that Pillsbury is going to spend over $1 million doing this, but that's still in the planning stage. The reason for it is to have something for posterity, for future generations, to see how a mill was put in a place 100 years ago, and if it's 100 years from now, 200 years ago, when those people came into the prairies of Kansas, where there were no trees, no nothing, and they had to go ahead and do it by hand.
But this is preserving the past, which most of these towns aren't doing.
The first Lindsborg grist mill, built in 1872 by Charles Johnson, was a small wooden structure south of the Swedish community. It housed 2 burr stones and got power from the water spilling over the dam, which was made of cottonwood trees, stone, and straw. In 1881, the rush of floodwaters washed away the crude mill. In 1882, J.G. Bergston and Francis Johnson built a new dam and mill. They brought milling back to Lindsborg. Bergston became sole owner of the mill in 1885, and by 1889 was overhauling the mill to the modern roller process. Then in 1890, Theodore Tyscraper, along with his wife Emma, gained control of the Smoky Valley Mill.
So Tyscraper was the one that named this mill the Smoky Valley Roller Mill, and they were the ones that rebuilt the dam and put in new turbines and fixed the whole thing up into really a paying mill.
Again, the mill was having problems with water. This time, not because it was too high, but too low.
Someone made the comment that so-and-so's chickens drank the river dry so the mill couldn't operate. Of course, it's a joke, but...
In that same year, 1890, the Jolly Miller, as the townspeople called him, converted the mill so it could run on either steam or water power.
To all my friends and patrons, I hereby give notice that the Smoky Valley Mill is running night and day. I don't have to stop for high water or low water or no water. I'm always the same and will give you the best. Yours respectfully, Theodor Teichgräber.
For years, the mill was filling orders night and day, until the tragic afternoon on October the 14th, 1897, the upper floor of the mill catches fire. The flames that threaten the entire town are battled till nightfall with the townspeople. The mill becomes a charred ruin. The roller mill was again rebuilt, and its business expanded to foreign countries. In 1903, the mill shipped carloads of fine flour to Spain and England. But tragedy strikes again in June of that year. It rained almost continuously for 10 days, and the Smoky is over its banks. The mill fills with water. The mill was not seriously damaged, and soon was producing high-grade flour. The first several years of this century were very prosperous for the mill. Theodore Tyscraper's sons, Emil and Carl, took over the mill in 1908, the year of the Jolly Miller's death. 2 years later, the married daughters of the late Tyscraper, Mrs. William Hagstrom and Mrs. Emanuel Hagstrom, bought the mill from Emil and Carl. The Hagstroms ran the mill until the Runbeck brothers bought it in 1927. The Runbeck brothers ran the mill for 28 years, until 1955. By then, the large mills were putting the small mills out of business.
I was taking care of the mill one Sunday, and George Desarek, I didn't know him at all, he didn't know me, and he came into the mill here and into the museum. He came over here to the mill and looked it over. And of course, he has been a miller for Quaker Oats for 38 years. In fact, I think he spent about 41 years working in mills. And he was very upset with the condition of this mill and the way it looked.
And I went through the mill, and they had signs on the roller mills there on the first floor, and I went all the way to the end, and it says first break 1 B-R-A-K-E. So I went back into the museum after I got through, and I says to him, I says, well, who does your spelling around here, you know?
So he came into the office there and he got on to me about the condition of this mill.
He says, what do you mean, who does our spelling? I says, well, the first break on a mill is B-R-E-A-K, not B-R-A-K-E. I said, that's a brake on an automobile.
And I told him, well, if you know so much about it, why don't you come and help? And he said, I'm going to do that. He said, I'll be retired in 2 years and I'll come back.
After his retirement in 1974, George Desarek became technical advisor for the restoration of the Lindsborg mill.
The man that I've been involved in, and I understand that deserves the credit of saving it, what I mean for the city of Lindsborg, is old Malcolm Esping, the silversmith. And of course Malcolm, he's an old reprobate. I call him old reprobate. He just kicks and squawks, but he gets things done. He gets people to go ahead and move, and that's what I'm after.
You see, I am a silver and goldsmith, fooling with 150 horse motors and stuff like that. But I mean, I have done things similar to this in the past. Now Mary, she knows about painting and refinishing and things like that, so that was her department. She would work on she had a crew here, you know, sometimes 6 or 7, and she'd be upstairs, downstairs, all over, telling them what to do. So things got done that way.
So if I wanted something done, she got it done. It wasn't one of these deals, well, I'll see about it and all that. In other words, she's a go-getter. She gets it done.
I'm not after any glory. If there's any glory, it's to be given to the people that worked here.
Most of the men that have worked here have been farmers at one time or the other. They know how to take a machine apart. They know how much stress and strain you can put on a bolt. They know how to, if it has to be shimmed up some way or the other, they know how to do it. And like I said, they could fix anything with a couple of nails and a hammer and a piece of baling wire. And of course, we went beyond the baling wire stage in here. We made it perfect. This is the remains of the old dam that powered the Smoky Valley Roller Mill since before the turn of the century. And we tried to restore it a few years ago. All the property owners except one was agreeable. And so we had surveys made, we core drilled. We spent over $10,000 doing the preliminary work, and then we received a federal grant for $140,000. And so we thought we were pretty well along the way. But then one of the property owners, owned the adjacent land, refused to sign.
We got to the point where we thought we could go ahead and move, and then a farmer down above the mill, he wouldn't permit us to go ahead and raise the water 2 feet. And of course, if you've seen it, you know the banks there are about 15, 20 feet high. He said his cattle would drown.
But now that's all a thing of the past. And so now we are spending our time within the old mill and the grounds here to restore it as a working mill, and it will be powered with electrical power. Why don't we go inside and see what the place looks like? Well, now we're down here in the basement, and this was the source of power. This shaft here extended through the side of the mill, through the old powerhouse, out to the river. The turbines out there, when the water is discharged into the turbines, would operate this entire shaft at about 240 revolutions a minute. Everything, every piece of equipment in this mill was operated from this shaft here, even the equipment on the top floor.
The basement was the worst. There was cobwebs and spiders hanging from, you can't believe, and it was damp down there, and all the boots on the elevator legs were just rotten.
Now over here on the other side, the legs and where the grain came in from the elevator, and we'll show you that here now in a second.
Then if you went down the basement, you had to go ahead and go with your hands like this, you know, get the curtain separated of the webbing, the spider webbing that was in there.
Well, folks, we are still here in the basement, but we're on the other side of the basement where there's a bin here in which wheat was stored. The wheat would be shoveled into here years ago, but later, after that, they put in an auger system. But now these little trap doors are opened. That let the wheat rush out here into an auger. And this auger would auger the wheat down to this little chute here, then down into a pit, down here into a pit, and then the big main leg would take this grain to the very top floor for the cleaning process. So now you have seen the basement here and the legs, and I've explained a little how they operate. So we'll return up now to the first floor and see some of the other equipment up there. While we were in the basement, I remarked about in the legs there was cotton belting and cups. Now, in each one of these legs here, there are 24 of them. You can see the cups here and the cotton belting behind, to which the cups are fastened. These various lines in there signify the width of the belting. Everything goes up to the top floor in these cups and legs. The wheat first starts in at the machine at the other end and gradually comes down here. Now these last three machines have smooth rolls. The first machine over there, the first three machines are corrugated, and this corrugation runs along from, like say, the middle of the roll down around the other side. They go at an angle like this. Well, one roll turns faster than the other roll. Everything goes through the sifters and the equipment on the next two floors. This is the roll floor, they call it. The next one, two floors, are used to separate the bran and the shorts and the flour. Flour goes into one bin, the bran goes into another one, the shorts into another one. And when you remark about bran and shorts, that is the various layers on a kernel of, of wheat. The outer one is your bran, the next one is your shorts, and they are two different materials entirely.
I heard of a lot of mills that they go ahead and they're trying to restore, but the thing of it is, when you get to it, do you go ahead and finish the job up? And I don't know of many of them that were finished up. I hope we finish up. We got just about 10% to go, but boy, I'll tell you what, it's hard to go.
I mean, even if we never put flour through it, just to say that this mill does run. And lots of mills all over the United States have started, but they have given up.
Time has stopped my wheels at last, but I still hold memories of a glorious past. So come within and share with me a few of the things that used to be. Many of my treasures are wrought by hand, unique products of a pioneer land, crafted by craftsmen so stubborn 'tis said, iron and wood could not fight them, so join them instead. Whatever they did, they gave it their best. They made what they could and prayed for the rest. Thank God 'twas our fathers who opened the way, for if left to his grandsons, 'twould be prairie today.